Sorry guys, because I wasn't recording, so I'm just gonna start again. So people make things, make art or things that are akin to art as a way of expressing their need for contact or their fear of it. People make objects as a way of coming to terms with shame, with grief. People make objects to strip themselves down, to survey their scars, and people make objects to resist oppression, to create a safe space in which they can move freely. Art doesn't have to have a reparative function any more than it has a duty to be beautiful or moral. And that this last sentence for me basically closes the case of why um, we should be doing this right now and without thinking beyond what it means. So basically, we ask you to go and find images from printed media or digital media by newspapers. We feel like it's important now that we are a combination of isolation and curfews. The majority of us haven't been on the streets or marching. I know that some people have been, and they have taken their own images. But basically, we still have ways to connect with the outside world. And I feel like public libraries are super essential right now and not regarded as such. They're places of inclusivity and education. There are services that offer that we don't know about. And one of them is kind of like reading the newspapers through them. So in a time where when it gets harder to read the news, not only things that are happening on social media, but actually appreciate the work of some reporters that are out there recording the voices and the images of people that are living through this. I felt it was important, we felt it was important to reach out, use a public service that it's essential, and also take the opportunity to see, hear, and read stories that are not on social media, really. Our social media bubbles, we think they're very diverse, but they're not as diverse as we think they are. So I think it's important to complement that with some news. Anyhow, so I just found this image from the LA Times. I think it was 3 days ago or so. Another problem with a problem with newspapers is that with things that are compressed in a matter of like days, it's hard to review stories that are older than 24 hours. And so that's another reason why this service is so amazing, because I was able to read papers from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, up to today, basically. I made a compilation of even headlines, because I feel like some of the headlines in the articles, they were amazing. I'll read them to you maybe if I can later. I have a lot of things going on. But yeah, I just felt like the headlines alone allowed me to educate myself, which I think it's one of the most, the easiest things that we could do politically to get involved is to basically learn about everything as much as we can. So I'm gonna share really quickly, and by all means, you guys can, let me see if I can, okay, perfect. I think you guys can see the images. So I just shared our shared folder, and I just put some images of paintings throughout history that feature, document, or represent protests or riots that have erupted periodically, repetitively, frequently, not just recently, but throughout history. So this is a futurist painting. I just did a little bit of a copy paste on the description. I'm not going to go about it, but I just like compositionally how it works and how movement is represented. And so I think it would be, I thought it would be a good inspiration for our assignment. This is something that it was really interesting. I found this image of this artist who in 2017, he just planted his easel in the middle of the street and then painted the confrontation between Trump or Trump supporters and anti-Trump supporters, or anti-Trump people, basically. I didn't know about, I never heard about this confrontation or riot or march. So it was nice to revisit expressions, visual expressions of protesting. So I was able to discover that what we're going to do right now is basically what artists have been doing throughout the history of humanity. So I put his paintings right next to it, his result. And again, I'm using this as an example of stylistically what we can do with the 2 hours that we have at hand. Very simplified version, vanishing points, but without being too interested in perspective. And then I also love the fact that the figures are represented very simply with just kind of like dark strokes. So it's not super, super detailed, but yeah, smoke. So I think like visually, I like the conceptual aspect of him being on the street. I think it's a beautiful way to protest, if you ask me. Very meaningful, but then also showing the result. I would love to, he's on Instagram, we can put his information, but I would love to find out how he did it. This was in 2011 in the UK. There was some violence and looting across the nation, but particularly in London. So also very recently, this is not something, it's important to also realize that we are all involved in one way or another, because when things explode, it feels like we are the center of the universe, but this is a common expression and conflict, or expression of a conflict, I guess. I chose this one also because of the way it's been painted, simplifying figures, not being concerned about being literal or hyper realistic. It's important that we have this in mind because sometimes what we feel like that's the only purpose of painting, to make things, especially when we represent images, that we have to be photorealistic. So this is an example of not being photorealistic, but still being strong in the visual expression. This was, I believe this was from the 1800s. I'm not sure, I should have put the year. Bristol riots, the burning of Queen Square, by William James Mueller. I love the colors, the muted tones, the darkness, and the fire being the protagonist, I guess, of the scene. There are people as well, so you can get a sense of unrest and the result of that confrontation or unrest. I think stylistically, it's really interesting as well, because it almost feels like an abstract painting. So, and then I also, sometimes when I find, or when I want to find inspirational images, I go to eBay or First Dips, because there are some pieces of art that have been done, but by artists that are not well known, that I feel they are they're beautiful and interesting. And I just found this piece on eBay, a street protest in Newark, New Jersey in the 1960s. The name of the artist was Blake. The painting is signed on the bottom corner. So I just think that this is inspirational in the sense that here we are, 2020. This could have been painted so many times throughout history and have the exact same meaning. So I feel like what we're going to do has a meaning, and it's powerful. And at the same time, looking the history of art when it relates to the expression of social unrest and confrontation, there's a lot of things that I feel are important to learn in that sense. And I feel like these things are missing in our social media bubble sometimes. There's there's so much that goes on, and there's so much finger pointing, and there's so much debate, and so many voices that want to be heard, and things that we should do and we shouldn't do, and how we should be allies, but are we doing it right, or what's wrong? There's a rough friction at the beginning, but I just feel like going back to art history and looking at representations of that, it's a good idea to see that we have been here before, and why not recognize what has happened before our time and how it was expressed, I guess, to realize that this has to be different. Anyhow, so after just saying that, I'm not very good at being at preaching, and especially I just feel like there's so many people out there that are so articulate and knowledgeable and actually are experts, that it's hard for me to just say something. But I'm just gonna turn this off. And what I'm gonna do next, I'm just gonna show you, we're gonna do things differently. Finally, we got this to work. So what I'll do, we have two cameras, and which we're very excited about. And I hope this continues working for the rest of the, for the rest of the assignment. Let me see if I can just move this. Okay, good. Because basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna focus one camera as close as we can to my board. As close as we can. I think this would be okay. And then, yeah, the other camera, I'm just gonna be basically talking to you guys. So we're gonna avoid, that way we're gonna avoid the light changing constantly when I move in and out of the camera. You're gonna be able, hopefully, to see better what I'm doing. So we're gonna give this a try. I can be more focused as well with the work. It's a little bit awkward for me because you can see I have the camera right next to me, but you're gonna probably see my facial hair popping up. But hopefully this will be helpful in the sense of creating an image that's static and without light changes. I'm not gonna be able to take photos of the work as we move along. That's a little bit of a downside, but at the same time, I hope this helps in the sense of being able to see up close what I'm doing. So first things first, my format is 12 by 16. We have a few new people or people that are reconnecting after a very long time. The format is different than the support. The format is the size of where we're gonna be painting on. The support is the material of that surface, basically. So it depends on what you're using. You're gonna get one result or another. I'm using cotton paper, and this is a fairly large format. Anything larger than 9 by 12 means more work. So be ready to spend more time on it. I personally feel that this is an assignment that will inevitably require more than one session, than 2 hours. So whether you have that in mind or not, the size in this case matters, because if it's larger, you may need to work on it a few more times to develop it further. But basically, I am privileged and lucky to have someone with a color printer that was able to print the image for me. So I just have it right next to me. It doesn't matter how big or small. You can work from your smartphone if you have one. But what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna concentrate on the edges of my format, and then also the edges of the image, so right here. And then what I'm gonna look at for are areas on those edges of the image that are cropped around the edge. The reason why, it's because this is a good idea to make some marks or find out where the cropping lines land on your edge, because then you can go back to your surface and mark those areas based on where you thought they were. So it's a way of like using the edges of your format as a visual ruler without any numbers, and then using basically the edges of the photograph as a reference point. By the way, since we have two cameras, and I don't know if it's gonna flip. Oh no, it's steady. Okay, never mind. I didn't want this to flip back and forth from my face too, but it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay, so I have these cropped lines, and I have the cropped lines of the crowd. I have some crop lines right here and crop lines on top. It's much easier to concentrate around the edges to plant, if you will, to plant those posts. Because if you start right in the middle of the paper, everything will be sort of like floating and nothing will be anchored on any visual post. So I feel like the advantage of working off of a photograph is that it's already cropped for us. So we can use the cropping on the edges to our advantage. So, and then what I'm gonna pretend that you guys have a wide range of images. Some may be more landscapes and some may be more portraits, some close-ups of faces, and some without any figures. So I'm gonna try to put my senses into articulating some tips or yeah, advice that could be used by you regardless of the subject matter. This is one of the things that I feel this assignment in regards of how to facilitate the instruction is going to be for me, to be able to provide useful information regardless of what subject matter you're doing. So anyhow, so yeah, the cropped element I think could work. And then what I'm going to do is start with what I call my potato shape stick figure situation. So at the very beginning, we need to arrange things within the format, and that requires us to basically just find out where things are and how big they are compared to the format. This is not about adding details or making things realistic or be very rigid about proportion or likeness. So that's why using potato shapes, meaning sort of like simplified versions of what we see, works. And stick figures instead of like fully rendered, figures works, because since the function is to just find out where and how big things are going to be on the format, I don't have to worry about details right now. So since I have this arm, what I'm going to do is quickly just going to try to position that arm without worrying too much about the look of it. Yeah. So notice that my strokes are long and fast, and I'm just concentrating on silhouette work. So I feel that's good. That's I have a scene that shows depth. It's a streetscape. So anything that involves scape, meaning space or land, I have to think of visual planes. So this is really close to me, and then I have the crowd basically behind it. I'm just gonna do the silhouette of the palm trees, the vanishing lines. I think that's good. Maybe some of the trunks. So the image was taken by a camera, obviously, so there is a distortion on the image. So I feel for me, conceptually, I'm just gonna render the image as I see it on the photograph, rather than trying to correct the distortion of the camera. Because when you paint from live, anything that's vertical, architecturally vertical lines are all vertical. And depending on the image that you have, because of the distortion of the lens, some of the building lines, even the people, depending if they're like in the middle of the image or on the outside, they're not going to be all parallel and vertical. It's a conceptual decision. So I just feel like, you know, conceptually what I'm doing is using the image of a photojournalist that documented this and then using it as inspiration or subject matter. So I think this is a good structure for me. That's all I wanted with this stage, really. Timing wise, I think we're okay. If I can do the sketch process, which sometimes it could go up to 45 minutes, and then 15 minutes to wash the sketch, then I think I could be in a good place. So also what I wanted to say as well is that I purposely, it's a combination of being purposeful and also inevitably. I'm working slower, and I am intentionally prefer to be behind you guys. So whether you want to be with me at the same pace or move at a normal pace, I would say it's up to you. But I am slowing down the process for two reasons. Number one, because it's hard to instruct or articulate and do at the same time. And inevitably, that's the, yeah, the inevitable, whatever word, I'm sorry. Part of it. So it just happens. But the intentional part of it is the fact that I just feel it's important to see how with less we can do a lot. It's important to see that yeah, slow doesn't mean ineffective. Sometimes it means being more efficient with decision making. So anyhow, so I have my first potato shaped structure, and then what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this. There are different steps basically doing sketching, by the way, for those of you who are new to my instruction. So what I do is I go back to what I have. I'm using charcoal, by the way. And then, oops, this is very dark, but that's okay. And then I do a combination of retracing, but at the same time, I am flickering my eyes back and forth to make sure that anything that's new, that I see kind of like new, gets captured in this second round. So it's sort of like I try to go step by step, and I try to build on what I have. Yeah, flicker your eyes back and forth a lot, because we have the habit of just looking at our own painting and not looking at the subject that we're painting. And that it could be a problem. And it's a habit. It's not about talent or skill. It's a habit. So we constantly need to refresh our mind or brain, really, of any visual information that we are perceiving through our eyes. So if we're not looking at the subject matter, there's no flow of visual information to our brain. So then we create out of intuition, memory, and association. So I'm not saying that's bad, but just recognize, I think it's important to recognize that that's a habit, and then you can decide if you want to break that habit or keep it. It's up to you. So this would be my second round in regards of like how to go about my potato shape, still concentrating on silhouettes. I'm not advancing further, because I know that it's important for me to provide space for an organic growth and development of my work. If I go too fast, I'll find myself correcting, erasing, removing a lot. So silhouettes are good. They're the least risky visual element you can use right now. If you start doing eyes right now, yeah, you're gonna find yourself changing them all the time. So the crowd, I consider it texture. So I'm not gonna start doing all the heads. So I'm just gonna group anything anything that feels like texture, I'm going to group it together and I'm going to deal with it later. So I have buildings and I haven't done the buildings. I think that's important. So I'm just going to basically, they're on focus. They're not detailed or on focus. So I'm just going to create an illusion or the essence of them without being too detailed. What's important is that I'm grouping them in their height, and I'm grouping them in their illusion of perspective. I'm not doing each one of the buildings right now. It doesn't make sense. It's a waste of time. I'm not being practical and efficient if I do it. So these things are monumental when we sketch, because sometimes we turn the switch on and then we kind of like start the sewing machine, and then we do without having a clear criteria of what we need to accomplish with our sketch. And I feel it's better to slow down and be thoughtful and honest about the structure of your image. What's the subject? What's the positive space? What would be the focus of that image? What is something that complements the image, but it's not as important? All those things need to be disclosed, articulated, and put right on the table. Otherwise, you'll feel you're going to start from point A, and then you're going to do everything the same with the same detail until you hopefully reach point B in a decent time. It's not going to happen. The time, I feel like time speeds up when we create. It goes much faster. So not only we have to talk, or we have to consider time management, meaning dedicating a certain amount of time to each of the steps that we think are going to work for this. Yeah, but we also have to manage other things, like how we're going to, what's a priority, what's a criteria here, what's important, what do we want to say. So I think, anyhow, this is what I meant when I said that it's not easy to talk and paint. And I never realized until, well, until we did this super highly concentrated webinars, I guess. We had some discussions about, at the beginning, we were nostalgic about not being able to be outside. I'm talking at the beginning when the confinement happened, or the quarantine, I'm sorry, the quarantine. Yeah, this is the crowd. Okay, that's good. So we were nostalgic. This is not the same. We started comparing. Well, it's just been like months now. So I feel like now, obviously, we just went beyond that stage, and we now appreciate what this provides. And what it provides, it's a much more intensive and compact opportunity to talk about a lot of specific things that are involved with the process. And this is something that we don't have when we get together, because there's more of a social component. And I gotta tell you guys, and we can talk about it later, I've learned more in this 11 or 12 weeks about technical things than before, when we sort of like went all over the place. And so I'm really happy right now. The post-webinar conversations have been amazing. Discovering new colors, how to blend things, how to deal with mixtures, something that I feel people wanted to learn or hear about. And we haven't had the opportunity to go in detail. But I feel like this format has provided us this opportunity to actually get down to the chemical aspect of painting, I guess. All right, so this is my next step. And I feel I'm okay with the progress and what I'm doing. What I'm going to do now, we have time. Yeah, we have a little bit of time. So there's several stages with the sketching. The sketching is not just one thing and that's it. Um, um, it's part of an entire process. It's not disconnected from what we're going to do when we use wet stuff. So it's very important. It's fundamental. It's about arranging. It's about starting to get familiar with the subject matter visually. And it lays the ground, the foundation of our observational interaction with the subject matter, because it takes time. To see things takes time. So anyhow, we did some potato shapes. I did some landscape, I guess, or visual plane work. What I'm going to do before shading is doing what I call structural lines. So once I have some silhouettes and I feel a little bit okay with that, I'm going to go inside and see if there are any lines inside that I can now place. The sleeve, the tattoos, maybe the wrist, the shadow. And why do I do that? So this is the entirety of my format, or yeah, the entire format. So consider this to be the 100% of the surface, right? So when I did the fist or the arm, so I reduced the 100% area into an area that's probably, I don't know, 20% of it. It's much, much less than the entire space. And so I reduced the drawing area from being this big to being only this small. So now that I have this drawing area much smaller, it's much easier to go inside and place your structural lines, the lines that break up that area into smaller spaces. We do totally the opposite. Because we want to go fast and achieving realism, what we do is we do the lines inside almost like at the same time as a silhouette, hoping that that's going to be the anchor for a realistic image. And then we basically start the house from the roof down, and we get to a point when things are not in a placement that we wanted to. We start losing control of the entirety of the format, and then we start panicking. And then this is what happens when you feel you want to push the reset button and do it again and do it again. It's never enough. You feel like you've done something, it's horrible, and you want to do it again. Why do we want to do it again? Instead of saying that, you know, it was only bad luck, let's analyze how we went about it, because you'll probably find that if you change the approach to sketching, the chances that you feel you want to rip that up and then redo it again are going to be much, much less. So don't start with details. Don't. I mean, I'm advising you to start with structural elements and leave the details for later. Be smart about it. Be efficient. Basically, just reduce your drawing areas, and yeah, and then you can just basically okay, let me just see what's going on. Sorry. Okay, never mind. So good timing. Yeah. Okay. So the last stage of the sketch is when we shade. It's also fundamental and really important, because everything we've done so far is basically the foundation to what we're going to do next, which is to break down the values in our image from darker to lighter. And why do we do this? Light, or the absence of it, is what creates the illusion of depth and form. Anything that's realistic, it's really an illusion, because we're using a flat paper. So we need to support our tricks on light. So we arrange, and then we bathe our arrangement with values. A value is the amount of light reflected on a surface. And it's a smart way to do it in order, organized, managed it. And traditionally, going from darker to lighter works here, just because it's a way to gradate your scale in an organized fashion. So also it's important when you set your darker shades first, you build anchor points that you can use to grow your process around, basically. So I have to squint my eyes. I have to pretend that the image is black and white. And sometimes color affects our decision here. So just do a little bit of an exercise of imagining that that image is black and white, and imagining that's blurry or unfocused in order to facilitate that breaking down of the values. So I see that this is darker. I'm going to use the side of my charcoal, and I use the charcoal differently. I need a little bit more charcoal, but that's okay. So instead of using the charcoal with a tip, I use the charcoal with the side. Why? Because I just want to capture this a little bit faster, capture this faster. Let me just say this. Yeah, work faster, or work, I don't know, it's gonna come to me. Don't listen to me, never mind. So I work by value, so darker, the palm trees are darker, so I'm just gonna try to see what's darker. My process switched from doing silhouette and prioritizing visual planes. It switched from that to going from darker to lighter. I'm using what I've done as support, and on that, I'm just bringing my next strategy, which is to implement the darker values first. The more pressure you put in the paper, the darker it's going to be, the charcoal. The less pressure, the lighter it's going to be. I was watching some documentaries last night about the Royal Academy has an amazing, in London, they have an amazing video program. They basically create these incredible documentaries that are like super long, that are a combination of a documentary and a virtual visit to their exhibits. So you are actually seeing the work, and at the same time, you learn about the work. It's brilliant. So I was watching one about Manet, and then immediately after that one, there was another one about David Hockney. Anyhow, I was working on things at the same time, and I couldn't focus entirely, but there was something that I really liked, because David Hockney works on with digital media, and he finds that the range of things on digital media is huge, and he loves it, but he misses one thing, and that I thought it was brilliant. So when he works on digital media, he misses, are you guys ready? The resistance of the surface. He misses how when you put a brush stroke, the canvas, the board, the paper just creates that slight resistance against your movement that you don't have when you work on a screen, on a glass screen. I thought that was amazing. I thought that was amazing. Yeah. So anyhow, I love that he articulated how or why he loved digital media and what was missing. I don't know. I miss the sound too. I love when things make sound. So yeah, why you want to do that? You know.
Where were you watching this, Julio? Was it a YouTube thing?
Oh, it was a documentary. It's streaming. Maybe it was, yeah, it's on YouTube. All of them are on YouTube. All of them on YouTube. I think Kian just kind of like, because he loves playing things on YouTube, on the TV. So it's on YouTube. YouTube.
Okay, I'll look for it for everyone.
Yeah, the Manet was just nuts as well. All right, so this is darker. There's some darker elements. It's just gonna make a little bit of a mess here. Work fast, don't be afraid. This is not going to, let me just, how should I say this? This is not going to be a reflection of how good or not good you are. So there's this pressure that we put on ourselves to make sure that we perform, and that is nonsense. So no. All right, so I think that's okay. This is what I meant about how little it takes to create an image, and how if you are thoughtful and smart about it, you can be very effective without feeling like you are walking on a landmine or a landfill, I'm sorry, and thinking that something that you're gonna do, it's just gonna blow up. I know that's maybe not a good analogy. I don't like to use war analogies, but you get my point. One of the things that, speaking of David Hockney, one of the things that he said that I absolutely love is that it takes years to keep it simple. It takes years to keep it simple. So true. Sometimes we overwork things just out of insecurity, out of trying to find confidence in something that has nothing to do with the process. So yeah, I feel like that's yeah, one of the commands I would write on my my own tablets. Number one commandment, it takes years to keep it simple. All right, there you go. We'll think of the other 9 or whatever. We should do that, actually. All right, so I'm ready. What time is it? It's okay. It's perfect. We only have like 10 minutes before the first hour. So I feel in my case, I'm a little bit behind, but that's okay, because I know that some of you are already washing and painting and doing first notes and all that stuff. And at the same time, I know that some of you will use charcoal and a little bit of wash for the entire 2 hours. So you guys find your own pace, and it's very important. You don't have to be at a certain point right now. Otherwise, it means that it's bad. Not at all. So I'm just trying to give you a sense of how important it is to manage your time, mostly because it's good to set expectations. So I'm just going to move expectations, meaning what we think we can accomplish with the time that we have, and how are we going to go about it if we want to do more of what we think we can do, basically. That's the expectation. And each of us should have different expectations of the work, basically, of the process. So I'm just going to start introducing the wet materials. We use a palette that's mostly all browns and neutrals, and we feel very strongly that that's good. And then I have the ecru, and I have 2 colors that we use a lot. There's this kind of like periwinkle blue. Gamblin, the brand of paint we use, calls it radiant blue. And then there's a radiant red. It's a pink. We'll talk about this later, but just want to say that things outside or things in reality don't have, they have a lot of neutrals, basically. So traditionally, it's a good idea to start with neutrals. And that's what I'm going to do. And I have 2 liquids. I just have 2 liquids. One, it's a turpentine, or rather, it's not turpentine. It's kind of like call things by the right terminology now that we are so we're learning so much with these webinars. This is not turpentine, and it's not paint thinner, because those are highly toxic and they create fumes. This is a mineral spirit based solution that dissolves oil, basically, or a solvent. It's a mineral spirit solvent. So yeah, I think that's important. So yeah, it's not turpentine. It's a mineral. It feels like water. It's clear. The goal is to just kind of like create a very thin consistency. And by the way, now that I just moved the camera too much, you guys tell us if that's good or bad, and Jen can report back to me. And also know that if you're working on a screen, you can make your screen much larger if you just put like full view. So if you don't have it yet, I think that's something that sometimes I miss, and I know that I can make the screen much, much larger than it is. So what am I doing next? So basically, I'm just going to use, let me just go back to this. I'm just going to use the thin turpentine and the big brush. And the idea is to follow the guide of the charcoal to go from darker to lighter, but with paint. So traditionally, this is done only with one color, So because of the time constraints, I'm gonna maybe use more than one, but know that to be safe, you can pick one single color and do the whole wash with a single color, and that will be just perfect. The idea of the wash is to seal the charcoal, I guess, and yes, seal the charcoal and prime the surface, because the surface is dry and it needs to be wet in order to create more fluidity with the subsequent layers there. So let me see, it's just gonna, whoops. Yes, Jen. Did I do something? Oh,
I'm not
no.
seeing anything.
Yeah.
Or did we lose? What
I
happened?
think this,
Did it die?
yeah, let me see if I
Oh,
can bring it
bummer.
back. Something, I did something, so good. Well, let me see if I can just bring it back. All right, let me see. That's all right. Oops. Whoa. Okay.
There we go. Oh, you had it, and then it went away.
La 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 la. All right, you guys, this is your time
There we
to.
go.
Let me see. This is this, and I think.
It's
Okay.
showing up for us. Yeah.
You can see me, right?
Oh, yep. Oh, lost it. Back.
Okay, let's see. Wait. Oh, yeah, I know. Sorry. Let me see if I can. Well, hold on 1 second. Okay. Is that okay? Can you see it?
I'm just getting like half of it. If you could just move
Okay.
a bit more towards that.
Oh, yeah, but you
area.
see the screen. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry, I think I need to be careful moving this thing because this is delicate in regards of buttons and stuff. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna use raw umber. The idea is to make a very, let me see if I can, I'm gonna be super delicate. To make something that has a very thin consistency, very thin, meaning more turpentine and less paint. And then the idea is to block out areas on the painting that have a similar value. So let me see if I can just put this, yeah. So I guide myself with where the charcoal is, and then darker to lighter. So a little bit of the, let's just put it right back at here, and then, sorry. Yeah. All right, so yeah, thin consistency, and then guide yourself with the charcoal. Work fast. This doesn't have to be a detailed miniature style kind of work. The idea, the function of the wash is to just transition from dry to wet in a way that feels as safe as risk-free, I guess. So we don't have to think about color matching. We don't have to think about detail work. It's a very specific function, which is seal the paper or the surface, prime the surface and seal the charcoal. That's it. There's nothing else involved with it. There's no other expectation. And I think it's good to have that in mind, because otherwise we think that this is a do or die stage where we have to get something right, and it has to be like the right color or whatever. Yeah, no, that's not the case. So darker to lighter, and I go everywhere. So it's very important, because we have a tendency of like getting stuck in one area until we finish it. We have to break that and make sure that we go by value. Going by value means that I execute my brushstrokes in the areas that are darker. I'm not gonna do this first and then the palm tree next. And there's something about this that will be inefficient. So in art, or in explaining art processes, there are so many ways to approach it. So I want to make clear that there's nothing that's right or wrong. There have been artists throughout art history, contemporary and past, that have worked by just location from the get-go. Not only wet medium, but they have done the charcoal, for example, on one section, and then sort of like expand it. The perfect example of that is Lucian Freud, the British artist who passed away not a long time ago, who did a lot of figurative portraiture and stuff. So he did that. He painted one eye and then everything around it. So the painting would expand from the eye. Fascinating, amazing. It would drive me nuts, but it's important to also say at the same time that he took over an average of like 14 months to do one piece. So keep things in perspective. If you have months to work on a piece, you can allow yourself the luxury of starting on from point A and then expanding. But if you don't, then you have to be a little bit more practical and efficient with the time that we have. So that's why working by value, it's pretty good in that sense. So I don't have to be exacting. The word exact, I don't know, we should be really careful about, because someone gave me a hard time, and Jen, you know that, maybe not. I'm totally gossiping right now, but someone told me a hard time. I mean, someone gave me a hard time saying that the word perfect shouldn't be used at all in the painting process. I don't know. I just, I don't know how I feel about it, because I think perfect, it's such a wonderful word. I'm bringing this up because I feel a word that I should be more careful about is the word exact. So to me, the word perfect is actually positive. If I use it in a way that doesn't mean like I'm measuring anything. It's the word exact that's really charged and haunting, and yeah, maybe not a good idea. The word exact, you know. Anyhow, I love words, and I think a lot about words. This is my Sesame Street part of the webinar. Sorry. So if you notice, I've been using a little bit less paint and more medium, and then I've been blocking out the areas that are less dark. So I'm going from darker to lighter. So it doesn't matter how little paint you have right now. The idea is pretend this is a watercolor process. So it could be as thin as you want it to be. But I'm just going to use some ecru tone to do the crowd as a group. I'm not interested right now, and maybe a little bit of gray and ecru. Again, I'm not pivoting to any color right now. I'm not pivoting to any color right now. I am focusing on my neutrals, on browns and grays. That's basically how I want to do this. Because, you know, let's kind of like think about it. If I would pivot to color right now, I would just get into the fast lane of color matching and blending. And I'm just not ready. There's so many things that need to go to go on right now, or to happen before I get there. So I'm not pivoting to color yet. Trust in the goodness of your browns and grays. They are good. They're good. This is traditionally, this is called grisaille. Grisaille is a French word that means grays, a network of grays, I would say. So it's very traditional, and yeah. So green, I may need to use green, but you know what? Right now, I'm not going to use green. I'm just going to use yellow ochre and a tad of the Payne's gray. The Payne's gray is a cool gray, and the yellow ochre, it's like a neutral yellow, basically. So I think, yeah, I'm not going to be super specific either. I'm just going to do, again, if I start doing each of the palms in the palm tree right now, we could be here, you know, until Sunday. So yeah, so I'm grouping things together. Another thing that it's important to be to acknowledge is that I'm not containing things inside shapes. I'm not using lines to dictate when the color stops and when it starts. So I feel like that would slow me down. It would slow me down. So think that as well. You know, you can think this in terms of like coloring, in which you would need to have like a strong line work, and then you would just start creating color fields, or just setting up a color found a layer, basically. So yeah, I'm not containing things inside shapes. And then finally, what I'm going to do, this is a little bit darker. I don't know what I'm going to do with the buildings. They're very similar color than the crowd. So ecru and gray, maybe. So we have to pretend when we see something that has many colors, we have to imagine what would be the best single solid tone that would go, that would support all the colors on top of it. So we need to create a generalized version of that multiple color area. Yeah, multicolor area, whatever, yeah. So I see buildings, facades, they have awnings and windows and murals and signs. And I have two choices. I can just go sign by sign and then exhaust myself and not have enough time, or I could just find a single tone that would be a good base for the whole thing. So I'm just using a combination of ecru and perhaps a little bit of gray. And I'm just right now, I'm just going to block it. Again, this is a preliminary, very clear stage where we move safely from sketch to, from dry to wet. We're not being exact. In fact, the word exact is not going to happen anywhere. And I'm not containing things. I'm not containing things. And this is important because otherwise you'll feel like things are, if you feel like things are way too shaped, then you're going to start panicking because everything will feel very much fragmented and segregated. And then you'll feel things are not really going well together, and that you want to start over again. When you feel you want to start over again, don't take it personal. It's not about us. It's about the process that we followed to get there. It's mostly a reflection of how we have taken a path that maybe it wasn't what we thought it was going to be, and then it it took us to a dead end street, and then we feel we need a redo. Doesn't mean like you shouldn't redo things, but I don't think that's a solution. It's not going to give you, it's not going to solve anything. If you start from scratch, I guarantee you, you're going to feel yourself in the same panic mode. And then 2 strikes, you're just going to scream. And we know this by experience because we have witnessed this in our sessions. And it's so hard to help someone, you know, not get caught in that dead end or dead end, because you can explain and articulate and express, and but our minds are set in a process. These are habits that we have acquired for years. They're ingrained and hardwired in our brains. This kind of like process. It takes so much time to undo. I think that's the word. So much time to undo and learn. So I think, I think I'm okay. You know, I think I'm okay. Time-wise, I'm running so behind, but that's okay. It's okay. All right. So this is basically my my wash. I don't have to cover everything, but it is important, in my opinion, to cover things with some sort of like combination of solvent and color, because there's nothing that's going to affect more your color making or your color decision making than having a blank space in your paper. Anything that's empty or blank, you think that that's not going to be a problem, but it does affect our color decision making. I'm on team cover everything up, basically. So that's where I stand. Some people think that's not a big issue, and it's nonsense. I feel it's better to just cover everything. You remove the blankness. You feel like you're already painted a layer. It's something that helps you advance your work so much faster. There are so many things that when you have a full layer painted, that you can leave the way they are, that you don't have to work again. There are so many benefits of just having everything fully painted. All right, so next step. So yeah, we have, I'm telling you, it's like time warp. It's amazing when we paint, and sometimes when we wait minutes, they feel like forever, and then when we paint, hours feel like minutes. All right, so what's different and what's the same about this stage? So after I have some sort of like coverage, it doesn't have to be exact or literal or proportionate or make sense. So I'm gonna move to a medium brush, because the idea is to go back. There's layering means repeating, but repeating with a different approach. And that's the basics of what painting means, and why it's so hard to move or break away from coloring and then have a painting mindset. Because the core of it is that we have to repeat over and over again on top of what we've done, but we have to do it in a way that it's different. There's a change in it. And every time we repeat with a different approach, we layer something new. So that's the reason why I'm changing to a small brush, so I can get a little bit more definition. I'm gonna use a different liquid right now. So instead of the turpentine, mineral spirits, Gamsol, I'm gonna use the medium. And for medium, you guys are using different things. I recommend to use at least 2 liquids. You can do this with only the Gamsol, and you can do this even with oil. But I think two liquids work, and we use a solvent and we use a medium. The medium, it could be anything. Most of you guys have Gallkit. Oh, and by the way, Charlotte, if I think you're here because you left an email last week about how to keep things wet on the palette a little bit longer. And on the follow-up web conversation, we talked about it, and I feel like I never responded, but just having a mental note of what you can do. But basically, Gallkit will speed up the drying of oil. And that's great if you want to layer things on top of each other really quickly. But at the same time, if you want to work on a piece more than one day, it's not great at all. Because if you use Gallkit, in less than 24 hours, your oil will be dry. So using other mediums and other oils can help you make the paint last a little longer. So the idea is to go back from darker to lighter, but this time I'm just going to be maybe a little bit more specific about, whoops, this is a little bit darker. So less, I'm using the medium, and that automatically creates more opacity. Sometimes what I do is, let me just see if I can slightly do this. What I do is I basically do a little bit of sample on the palette, and then I contrast the sample against the surface. And that gives me an idea if the temperature is okay and the value is okay. I look at temperature and value. I really don't look at the name of the color that I'm using. So this value-wise, it's a little bit too dark. So I'm just gonna create a little bit of a darker note, maybe with some gray, and we'll see. Yeah, that could be a good idea. So yeah, the idea is to just go back. And because I have a paint that has a slightly thicker consistency, I'm able now to almost resketch what I've done. So I go back and I kind of like retrace, but at the same time, I give it more body. And at the same time, I concentrate on the drawing aspect. Yeah, because painting is drawing. Painting is drawing. And I feel like it's important to say this a million times, because we have completely separated painting and drawing as if they were two completely different disciplines and not interconnected. So, and then we feel like when we're painting, we're off the hook. We don't have to take care of our drawing. And that's when things starts getting out of control, because we need to think in terms of like continue the drawing through wet media. So what I'm doing right now, I am applying paint again, but at the same time, I'm aware that certain things on my wash must be adjusted. So I am working on creating opacity, but I'm also working on my drawing. I'm working on my drawing. I'm gonna go darker to lighter. There's darker here. Don't spend too much time in one area. Try to basically flutter around your painting. You'll be able to develop several parts of the painting at the same time, basically. So another thing that I want to do and that I want to talk about, yeah, my brushstroke it's calmer, it's quieter. It's not as long. My strokes are shorter. It doesn't zigzag as much. So I'm not sort of like pushing the paint in a zigzagging way. I'm kind of like doing almost like deliberate brush strokes based on what information I see. I still flicker my eyes back and forth, and that is not gonna stop at all. I feel like there's a little bit of red. So my eyes are now getting a little bit more acclimated, and now I'm starting to see variations of color. And that's why it's not a good idea to pivot to color early. because our vision has not been really calibrated to understand what kind of like nuanced variation of color what we see kind of like takes. So this is a little bit, has a little bit of pink. It's a little bit lighter. Constantly check with your image if you have something printed. It's a little bit too red right now. And then, so I realized that there is a part of the painting that now I feel it needs to be adjusted, a part of the painting. Let me just be specific. I realized that the drawing of my sketch and of my wash, now I feel it needs to change. I see things now, and I want to apply them. So what I do is basically now, I'm going to use a little bit of lighter color because I'm going to concentrate on one location because I'm not going to have time to do that much. So checking. So I'm going to move that angle of the shadow. It's a little bit too much going to the horizontal space. I need to raise it up. So I'm just going to bring the lighter tone and then push that edge upward. Push it outward. It was too low. I didn't see it before. I see it now. This is what I'm talking about drawing is painting. Yes, I am applying paint, but the drawing never stops. So I just pushed it upwards. Then another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on the background. And the reason is because I feel like I'm not going to have enough time to go about what's called first notes, what I did right here on all the parts of the painting. So since this is an executive decision, since this is sort of like the protagonist of this painting or the subject that's closest and more defined, I'm going to talk about things that you guys could apply on yours, specifically just concentrating on this image. And one of the things that it's important that you could do right now is understanding that you must find balance between working on what's called the positive space and working on the negative space. There's no way around it. This is it. You basically, the positive space really quickly, it's what's tangible in a scene, what has physical presence, what an object, a figure, a tree, a car, a building. It's about physicality. Negative space is the intangible, atmospheric scene, light. So that's basically the difference. Positive space is the arm, negative space is the background. So I did a minimum amount of work on the positive space. I'm gonna go to the negative space right now because you can draw a little bit of white. You can draw, I'm testing the color, from the positive space by shading or pushing that edge from the outside, Flicker your eyes back and forth. Don't worry about the paint getting mixed. Don't worry about the oil or the brush picking up some of the paint from the other side of that edge and then smearing it. This is why oil is gorgeous. We want these effects to happen. We're not a printing press. We're not machines. We want this messy medium to reflect our actions, I guess. I don't know if that made any sense, but yeah. So I love when the medium does things that I didn't expect. So I'm working on the knuckles, and what I'm going to do, this is a good example of why it's important to consider the negative space as a drawing, um, tool. Basically, I'm doing a combination of creating more body on the wash, and at the same time working on pushing the edges, so I can advance the drawing, develop the drawing, elevate the drawing. So it's not enough to create highs and lows in the positive space. It's not enough to paint the eyelashes and to paint the eye color. That's not going to push the painting forward. You have to consider the negative space. We have this idea, it's by the way, it's anchored on habit. And sometimes and the fact that, you know, since no one has really told us how to do this, our brains, our minds find the best shortcut that we can think of. So this is a little bit longer. So okay, so I just did this pushing the edge. Let's say I push the edge and then I don't like it. And then what? Don't feel stuck, or don't feel like, you know what, that's it. Yeah, you're done. So I can go back. In fact, it happens all the time. I can go back, clean the brush with the turpentine. That's the main function of the mineral spirit, sorry, with the solvent. And then you can go back from the outside and push the edge out again. So don't be afraid. Don't worry that it's oil, and that's why it's amazing. We can push that edge out or shave it, Yeah, I think that's okay. So it's just building up. I need some highlights on the knuckles right up there. So ecru is a great color. I'm still working on my browns. If you want to introduce color right now, I suggest to bring color by adding a little bit of the neutrals to the color. Because if you add color right now, and it's super saturated, it will set you back. It will set you back. You'll have to recalibrate the color, and it's, yeah. So transition to color by using neutrals. So let me see. I'm gonna move to the small brush because I feel I wanna start doing some detail work on the edge, some line work basically. So the size of the brush right now, I'm moving between the medium and the small. The difference is that with the medium, I'm able to create more of a pixelated brushstroke, and it works for values. But with the small one, I'm just able to do some details. Yeah. And I'm just going back to what I said, or let's for a moment, because now we're just going to start getting engaged in the issues with realism and representation, and there's always going to be a disconnect, and I think it's better if we are honest about it. There's always going to be a disconnect. Call it disconnect, call it chasm, call it gap between a photographic image and our painted rendition of it. So I feel like the sooner we recognize that that's not bad, that in fact we can be on our own lane, which means painting, and let the photograph be on its own lane, which means photography. The goal of our work is not to compete or sort of like make sure that our work is photographic. I think this is very important because otherwise you're going to start painting by or becoming photographic in your process. And if that's the only thing that drives your practice, it's just going to be exhausting and frustrating. So even though it's figurative and there's realism and representation, I feel we need to come to terms with that gap between detail and hyperrealism, and then also our own interpretation, recreation of it. So in that sense, I say this because there's no other way to explain how important it is to simplify, to use simplification. Yeah, so anyhow, so I'm just using a little bit of lighter tones. I'm not using a lot of paint. I am a believer of using the limited quantities, at least at the beginning. I feel like sometimes the amount of paint that we use may be a crutch for something we can control. And sometimes that's why I feel in order for us to use a palette knife, because you're gonna probably you've seen people using palette knives. There's so much more work and decisions and learning that has to come before scooping some paint and spreading it on the canvas. I just feel, I don't know, I'm very uneasy. I feel like most people jump to it without being entirely ready. It's a big can of worms. So I feel safe with thin layers or not too much paint, at least at the beginning. We can always build on it. I like to always have room to make things differently. I'm just concentrating a lot on the fist, obviously. So simplification, I don't have to capture every single detail. Already, I think from a distance, I'm looking at the work and it already starts having the idea of this being a fist. So it's about how stubborn, really, I want to be in regards of making it more like a fist. It's a personal decision because sometimes we feel like there's no stop. We achieve something and then it's never enough. It has to become more and it has to look like something more. And in that drive to achieve something, we lose focus on everything else in the painting. Just get what you need and move forward. Get what you need and move forward. You don't have to overwork something yet. Leave it for another session. So anyhow, I am just gonna basically use maybe the, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna use the light blue because I feel like I want to capture the forearm. Okay, so basically it's 12:30 and we have half an hour, which is a lot because I'm just gonna explain again for some of you who are panicking that yes, time flies, but time is not even in regards of how we use it for our own practice. The beginning of a process requires much more work and entails much more time dedicated to it. So things will develop in a much slower way. But as soon as we have a couple of layers built, we can work so much faster with much less work. So the time or the work develops exponentially from really slow and barely taking off the ground for the entire first hour and a half, really, and then increasing the speed of development as we move forward. It's good to know that because you don't want to put the same amount of work at the very beginning and now. You would be overworking what you're doing right now. So it's important to understand that at the beginning, we need to go much more and expect less results. And now we need to work much less to get more results. All right, so anyhow, what am I doing? So why did I say that? I don't even know, but I hope that was helpful. I'm just gonna basically, oops. I'm gonna basically try to get that forearm. You don't have to match the color. This is not about painting, is not about color matching. Get that out of your head. Oh my gosh, I'm being aggressive right now. Yeah, it's not about color matching. I'll elaborate on that. It could be a good subject for a thesis, maybe. But you just need to know, we just need to know that painting is not about color matching. All right, so I'm flipping my, or switching between medium brush, and then I'm gonna see if I can create a color. So the color of the arm is brown, but it's not just super pigmented. So I'm gonna mix a couple of browns with ecru, and then see, and then a little bit of pink. So the burnt sienna has more red. The raw umber is more neutral. So depending on what neutral tone you see, think of if it needs higher temperature or if you need to cool it down, because that's a better approach than thinking what color name do I need to make. So I feel like it needs a little bit of gray. Let me see. Yeah, I think so. So I'm trying to build a little bit more. And I'm using the medium, by the way, to mix with paint. I'm not using paint alone, because right now, if you use paint alone, it's too thick and too pasty, and it's going to create a layer that's going to be too thick as well. So it's not going to help you when we go back at it. Remember, repeating things, layering is repeating things over and over. So if you put too much paint in an area right now, you'll have to go back to it. And then it's going to be more difficult to work on it if you have a bunch of oil just sitting there. So I try to be mindful about how much paint I apply. So in that sense, this needs more paint because it was very dry from the wash, but I'm not adding a ton of it. So I'm working on blocks. If you notice, what I'm doing is I am heavily pixelating the cylindric shape of the forearm, because this is not all flat. There is a light reflection on it, and I need to create an illusion of form. So I'm going about by doing chunks first. So maybe darker chunks and then medium chunks, and I'm leaving the highlights right here. It's not specific, it's not contained, it's not super shaped, but it's a first step. It's a way of organizing values right now that feels, it feels sound. It feels sound, and it feels like, you know, I can build on it. So pixelating first, and I'm not trying to make transitions yet. I'm not blending. So I feel like that can help me. Yeah, can help me. And then I'm just gonna find a little bit of this color, the white. It's not pure white. I just wanna add some of it right now. Squint your eyes back. Squint your eyes. Yeah, squint your eyes, because sometimes that will help you find out exactly where an area what area contains a color, a value, texture. So by squinting my eyes, I'm able to group together the highlights and find where they are grouped. This is a little bit lighter. I'm patient. I'm not expecting any kind of results. I enjoy moving in really tiny steps. I always feel I move forward. I never fall back. There's no ruining here. It's all about compounding a bunch of decisions as I go. And to me, that's what makes painting enjoyable. If I had to judge painting, but what kind of results I would get from it, I would probably be doing something else. I have to enjoy the process of doing it, because then that makes me feel, you know, it's my perfect state of mind. I don't base things on results. I love thinking. I love observing, something that keeps me grounded. I find it meditative. It drives away all the noise from my mind. So this is why I enjoy it so much. So that's what I'm doing. Um, Trying to base my decisions on observation, working one step at a time, um, trying not to be impatient. It's a great, you guys, it's such a great practice. My gosh, I wish more people would do this. So good. You know, it's, you know, it's humbling, it's constructive and not destructive. Yeah, I'm just kind of like working on darks. And then slowly those chunks right now, they are somewhat becoming a little bit what I call integrated, a little bit integrated. Okay, so I'm gonna show you basically, I still need to work on the drawing because I feel like, you know, I'm making this too much of a, what I call a limpy noodle, a limpy noodle. So this is the part of the webinar when I talk about limpy noodles, for those of you who are here for the first time. What's a limpy noodle and why I am talking about limpy noodles? So when we paint, what we end up doing is we pivot our brushstrokes basically from our wrist very often. And then we start creating brushstrokes that have what I call a windshield wiper effect. Not only that, but sometimes we start dragging the paint along edges and we create this sort of like sinuous curves, basically. So over many applications of paint, our work can start looking like very, almost like inflated and round. So instead of creating turns and breaks and angles and effects, by the nature of applying paint, we start creating what I call limpy noodles. And the reason why this came about is because I've tried to find an analogy of why areas are becoming very curvaceous in our painting the more we paint. And I just visualized the old school method of finding if the pasta that you're cooking is al dente. So if it sticks, if you throw it against the tiles of your kitchen and it sticks, basically you're done. So I don't know why I'm trying to connect all those two things, but the idea, forget about the analogy, the idea is to avoid creating things that become so round that it almost feels like everything in our painting, it's bubbling up with air, it's inflated. So avoid limpy noodles means that go back to edges that you have and try to find areas where you can break that roundness, that's that sort of like sinuous curvature. It's going to do so much good on the painting. It's going to really, you're going to, if you go around along the edges and you try to find the ins and outs, you're going to carve your figures out of that balloon surface. I probably should not continue down that path of articulating that, but yeah, so the idea is to just go back to some of the edges. The edges right now are not as simple and clear as we thought they were going to be. So there's some parts that they could be retouched, or, you know, the knuckles, for example, this sort of like valley between the knuckles. It's a little bit more pronounced here. This is not super round. It's a little bit shaved on the side, and then there's a little bit of an incursion inside of the skin right here. So this minimal touches along the edge will help you to literally carve out definition. If you don't think about it, you're gonna unconsciously continue applying paint around the edge over and over again. And by the nature of the application, things will expand and really look like they're inflated with air. Anyhow. Oh, how do you blend? So this possibly could be, we have about 15 minutes left. So it could be a good stage for me to explain how to blend things. So far I've applied things in a very strokey way. I don't know if that word exists. In a very strokey way, very pixelated, deconstructed, fragmented. But there's a point where things need to be sort of like integrated, or they don't have to be integrated, but, you know, I feel that's where I want to go. Yeah, because it's a stylistic decision. It's a stylistic decision. You decide if you want to keep your brushstroke pixelated or if you want to polish it. So that's your prerogative. So what I do to blend, I use basically a dry brush, and that's why oil is superior as a medium compared to wet water-based, because the paint right here is wet. So all of this is wet. So what I do is I use a dry brush. I just wipe off the brush, and then old brushes work so wonderfully with blending. So this is a totally nasty brush. So what I do is I just focus on blushing basically the edges of that surface. Whatever I feel like there is an area that has too much of an abrupt change from one temperature to another, value to another, color to another, what I do is on that sort of like crack, I go with, and I need to clean this very often. So that's why having a rag is such a great idea. And then I just blush that area. So at the beginning, we were very physical with our strokes because we had to cover a lot, but now it's when we have to be delicate. So there's definitely, I wouldn't define this better than saying that there is a shift, a major shift in brushstroke application, you guys. So if you continue your application the same way you did at the very beginning, you're not going to create a shift on your painting. The painting's going to fall into a rut, and you're just going to overdo it. So what's the shift? So basically, I just need to be gentler, and I need to understand that small changes create a huge effect. Because at the beginning, you go full force, almost physical. And then because you need to develop a lot. But at this stage, if we don't change that mindset, what we're gonna do is basically do a painting on top of this painting, and the process may never end. So be gentle and understand that small effects, small applications on the painting create a huge impact. So you have to be also careful, because if you blush this too wide, what you're going to do is you're going to lose definition of whatever edge you have, and then you're going to be basically stirring that area. And that's basically what happens with oil and the frustration that people have with oil. It's the fact that, you know, it feels like I can't control oil, you know, it's hard to layer it on top of it. And so it's not the medium that is to blame. I think it's not fair. I'm here, I'm an advocate for the medium. It's not the medium that is to blame, is the process or how we go about it or how we apply it that we need to revisit and change, because you can't just blame the medium and then give up on what the medium can provide. So most complaints or cries for frustration with oil come because we feel like we start losing definition inside areas, and then the colors start blending, and then we create what's called a muddy area, because everything's the same color and then nothing, we lost something. So how do you avoid this? How do you avoid this? So my advice is that you need to embark in that mega shift of changing the approach to brush strokes. Be extremely delicate and gentle, like you're dusting with your brush almost, and then apply those strokes on the edge, and then stop and wipe off, because we don't do that often. And then what happens is that we carry the paint in our brush. We carry the paint. The paintbrush starts to load up with pigment. How can we expect to create definition when we are blushing if we have paint in the paintbrush that's going to basically stir what we have and add more of it? So remove paint, blur the edge, remove paint, blur the edge, and stay within that narrow path. Because if you go much wider, yeah, you're going to lose definition. Okay, so I built some muscle here on the forearm. I want to do the sleeve. And by the way, I didn't mention anything, but this could be a good idea or a good moment to mention this. As you know, our shared photo folder is our point of contact and the place where we can, our board basically, where we can just exchange and share. So we are coming close to the end of the webinar. So take pictures of your stage or your process and upload them. It's a Google folder, it's free. You can download the Google app in your phone and do it. And you can also send the image to Jen so she can upload it for you. But yeah, so I'm just anticipating what we want you guys to do for us. And if you want us to talk about where you are on your process and how far you've gone, take a photo and upload it. We still have a little bit of time. We have 10 minutes, but I'm just saying, we're going to take a break after the 2 hours. And this time we're going to take a 10-minute break. In that time, basically, we're just going to reshuffle the images in the folder, and then we're just going to do the Q&A and the critique session. All right, so, and then what? I'm looking at this, and I feel this needs to be a little lighter. There's something that I approach this assignment or this process differently, because usually I talk about second notes and what they are and how important it is to stick with the same color hue and not add more to it. So let's go over it quickly for a second. So second notes, it's a terminology that defines the stage where what I'm doing is creating lighter and darker versions of the same color in the same area. So we did the wash to prime. We applied first notes, even though I probably didn't mention it, by just doing this kind of like pixelated areas. And now what I'm doing is creating highs and lows within the same area. But what happens? So we have a tendency to pivot to color addition because we feel we don't know exactly what we're supposed to do. And then our way out of that corner is always add color, which is not a good way out. So my suggestion is that if you're working on an area, stick with the colors that you have, and before pivoting to color, create a lighter version of that tone or that hue and a darker version of it, because you're going to be amazed how much development you can get by just working on value alone. So yes, second notes, that's what I'm trying to do. Right now, my observation is telling me that I see lavender tones on the skin. So I'm just kind of like moving towards application of some tones right here. Yeah. Lighter version of the color. And in this time, what I'm doing is a little bit with some lavender notes and darker version. I need to darken this area. Here's another thing that it's important as well. And I would say it's almost behavioral. And I'm not saying this in an insulting way. What I mean by that is that we have a tendency to think that our brushstrokes are not being effective. We always feel like we come from a place of nothing, it's adding up. There's no progress. It's a slippery slope. We start saying this to ourselves, and then we end up thinking, you know, this is not worth it to continue. So I say it's behavioral because it's important to understand that every brushstroke we add adds development to what we're doing. So have confidence that that's the case, that's factually true, and understand that even the tiniest application of paint or blending can create such a huge impact in the overall painting. So that's what I'm trying to tell myself right now. You know, there are things that I'm seeing right now that I feel I want to incorporate. I'm not rushing. I'm not thinking I'm not being effective. I know that everything I'm applying, everything is contributing to the elevation of the entire piece. So it's important to find this solid ground to stand on, because otherwise you will feel completely overwhelmed by decisions that you think you have to make, but you haven't, results that you expect you should have by now, but you feel like you don't. And I think it's such an overwhelming feeling that it could really stop the process. So I'm trying to find, stand on solid ground and find what I can do right now. I can work on darker areas and on blending. This area needs to be a little bit more blended. So I'm just gonna use a small brush. Yeah, small brush. It's a little bit darker right here. Please revisit or bring back, I'm gonna try to make you bring back in your minds the examples of paintings we added in the folder for us to kind of like find inspiration from. Remember that some of them were very simplified, anchored in abstraction. It's important to support yourself with images that can provide oxygen, so you don't feel like this has to look like a photograph, because our brains have like very short-term memory, and then we forget things that we consider at the beginning, and then something gets triggered. Something gets triggered, and then yeah, everything falls apart. So kind of like working, this is yeah, I think yeah, I think okay. Well, we have like a few minutes, and a single minute can do so much. I'm just gonna try to work on breaking up that limpy noodle on this part of the arm. On mine, it's just falling so fast. It's so straight, but on the image, there's it's not as simple. There is a variation here, and I think that could be so helpful. And I'm missing, I miss talking about so many things, you guys. I wanted to talk about the importance of non-conforming brushstrokes and what they are. A non-conforming brushstroke, it's a brushstroke that does not follow the silhouette or the outline. We tend to apply paint by outlining shapes first and then filling it up inside. And then that contributes to the effect of those sort of like wavy or inflated shapes. So a way of preventing that is, instead of making, I'm gonna give you an example of conforming brushstroke. It would be painting like this over and over. A non-conforming brushstroke will be maybe just following a vertical or maybe a diagonal application. So it would be a way, or even horizontal. Break up that conformity so not everything feels completely almost like cut and paste. So yeah, basically, I'm just gonna pause my work right here. I'm not even 10% in, but I'm happy with the result. I just feel like for the time that I had and what I was supposed to talk about and say, this, it's not super clear, but it's okay. Let me see if it's, yeah. I'm happy with the application of browns and stuff. I would need to work on the palm trees and the crowd, basically. But yeah, it's important to try to find value, aesthetic value in the stage that you're at. 10 minutes right now after we conclude the 2 hours. I'm going to stop the recording during the break. And then when we get back, you can dedicate the break if you want to work a little bit further. You can take time during the break to take the snapshot and upload it. We're going to try to organize the images in the album right now, and then also take a bathroom break if you let us. All right. So, okay. So I can wait to reconnect. And when we reconnect, we can basically all be together and talk and stuff. And I can wait to see the images, and I hope I was helpful in my instruction. I am open to criticism from you guys. Absolutely, I'll take it. All right, so I'm gonna pause, and then I'll see you guys in 10 minutes. Hopefully you'll be there. We'll do Q&A and then feedback. I'll see you in 10 minutes. Gonna basically is recording right now, and thank you. And we had a fantastic group. I didn't welcome every single one of you, but I really appreciate that you're there. My gosh, the work is so good. You guys are amazing, and I'm so thankful and inspired, and I love it. It's so powerful. And well, first of all, you guys, if you have any questions or anything before we jump into the feedback, by the way, the critique session means that I'm going to provide my personal feedback in a constructive way. It's not about criticizing. So you don't have to say anything. So don't feel like you have to talk, and you don't have to show your face. And but I'll just kind of like go over it. If you're there and if you want to jump in, feel free. But as of now, anyhow, I just wanted to make that statement, that don't feel obligated whatsoever. The same way that you are able to upload, you can remove images as well from the folder. So you basically have the power to edit the folder. So any questions, Jen, in the chat? Any issues? Anything that you think we should touch right now?
No, I am in the process of adding one more image, so we will have to refresh at some point. But
Okay.
other than that, I think we're good to start.
Okay. I'm just gonna bring basically everyone. Let me see if I can. I guess. All right. Yeah. So no questions or any issues, or so basically we can just jump to feedback. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm just gonna edit something really quickly here, so we can have all the images together. And then it makes it so much easier to talk about them, basically. And then I have one, let me see if I can see the image that Lois, yeah. Oh, wow, this is just so incredible. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and share the screen so everyone can see, yeah, everyone can see the images. And basically, yeah, so a couple of things I forgot to mention. This piece of work from the Ferguson riots in 2015. It's charcoal and ink on paper, and I thought it was really interesting. I just forgot about it. And thanks for the Lucian Freud and how he works first around the eyes and then expands. There's another Lucian Freud from earlier, and another one from earlier even. So really interesting. And David Hogney as well. Thanks, Jen, for adding all those Royal Academy videos. You have them in the folder as well. And I think that's brilliant. Thanks, Jen. And I'm gonna start with, yeah, so Sarah Brochure, I love when you uploaded the image. This is incredible. And this is what you have right now. And I think, yeah, I wanted to bring this up because I like your comment. I may cheat and stencil some text in later, but at the very least going to paint in text, not sketch now. This is really good because I gotta tell you, when you posted some images, when you guys posted some images, I feel like some could just be done with basically painting the image, but some there's writing on them and even the headline. So I'm so happy that you're considering to incorporate actual writing on them. So great sketch. I love that you shared your setup with everyone. I think that's very inspiring and really cool. It's good that you had like a bigger screen. So that definitely facilitates it. And before going to Chloe, so yeah, love the image immensely. I have, I don't know, I'm speechless. I think it's beautiful. I think you work very fast and in a very effective way. I love the contrast between warm notes and cold notes. And I like the eyes closed a little bit. So yeah, I would say more value work needed because you have this highs and lows that are expressing, or they're very expressive. I know that you are still sort of like working on things, but I noticed that in yours, there's less of a variation on values. So I would say this is something that I would do. Definitely the eyes need to be. Consider making them look like they're more recessed, because right now they're coming out a little bit too much in that sense. Notice that there's a lot of highlights around the eyes that make the eyes kind of like a little bit more recessed, and there's more contrast as well on the bottom lid. I feel like it could be a little bit darker because it's just going to help you sculpt that area a lot more. So I think the pupils could, yeah, I think that's fine. Maybe the pupils, the right pupil could be a little bit larger. Let me see, but yeah, I would say so. Sometimes we make the pupils in the eyes a little bit too small. So I think that would be, those would be the areas. And I think it's important because since you have a close-up and more reason to add details around the facial features, especially. So it's a powerful painting. So Sarah, I think this speaks volumes in so many ways. And I'm so happy that we did this. I mean, just because of the work that's coming out, this is such a healthy way of basically digesting all this. So if you have any questions, you can let me know, or I'm just going to move to the next person. And Jen, I don't know if you can monitor or manage that, or if everyone's muted, or.
Yes, would you like me to unmute people or just have people write in the
Yeah. If
chat?
you want Sarah Brochure, yeah, I think that would be great. So that way we can.
Hi.
Hey,
There she
Sarah.
is.
I just watched the rest of it. I haven't really even done anything on the rest yet. So I just put the insert up for now because that's all I worked on this session.
That's amazing. And then, but then you're planning to put like letters, I mean, because this is only sort of like the small area, right? I'm sorry.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so there's going to be stuff below. Yeah, I think that's beautiful. Okay.
I believe there's another image, if I posted it, Julio, a little further down where you can start to see her working on that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. I see it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Incredible. There's such a beautiful and interesting conceptual aspect in the fact that you are painting the cover of a paper. It's almost, it's not just an image. Conceptually, I feel like that's very interesting. So I'm glad you went that route because it's paying off. I think it's excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any questions, any issues, or you're going to continue working on it if you can?
Yeah, I need a lot of time. I feel like a lot of time.
Yeah, well,
and
no.
Do you think the stencil, I mean, I kind of want the text to look like newspaper text, and I don't trust myself at all to be able to.
You could totally, I mean, that's not going to take you that long because you could blur it a little bit with the darker gray, and that's going to read like newspaper text.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm just gonna, Chloe.
Chloe she unfortunately had a migraine, so she's not on with us.
Okay. So I think we could just leave it for the end if we have time. And yeah, we're just gonna go to Hania. I saw the image at the beginning. That's wonderful and great. Love the wash. Honey, I love how you take your time with the sketch and the charcoal, and I think that's brilliant and really good. So yeah, different layers, and then you apply the color very softly. So this is something that always I appreciate that you do. First of all, Hania, let me just acknowledge that you are connecting with us from the UK, the New Forest. And that is incredible. And week after week, your work is developing and growing. And I know you're struggling with oil, but it's giving you amazing results. I also wanted to say that I like how you pace yourself in the sense that these 2 hours, you have enough by analyzing and working only with charcoal and a little bit of almost like watercolor consistency. And that's something that I really appreciate, because the more time that you spend in these areas, the more you're gonna have, or you're gonna be able to process and add on later. So in that sense, it's a great sketch. I like how it just moved from more specific to a little bit more abstract. I like the composition. I love the harmony of the colors here, and nothing to add, because I know that you need to develop it a little bit further. So I would say facial features will be important, and then the hand, also the fist, will be important. So I know that you're working off of an image, I mean, of a painting. It's not a photograph. So that's another added fun thing to consider. So I don't know if you're here, if you wanted to say something, or if you had any questions. Okay. So Lois, I'm just going to move to your incredible, powerful.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
Oh my God, I love you guys so much. I'm so freaked out.
How are
It
you?
was amazing. No, it was amazing because I didn't know what to choose, and I decided to I get LA Times. I've subscribed to major news places that I trust, and I've subscribed to the e-newspaper, and I just decided to because I couldn't decide. Here's the thing, I could not decide how to take all these feelings that I have and the situation I'm in, where I have to stay home. I have a 92-year-old person in my home. I have daughters. I have all these things, and we all want to speak out and can't. And I couldn't pick the image that needed to be, I felt like I needed to create my own image. So I just decided to take the image straight from LA Times Today, which I look at every morning. Usually I look at my sketchbook every morning, but instead I've been finding solace in this reporting. And I found this picture, and I looked at it, and it didn't seem like exciting to me. It didn't seem relevant to me. It didn't stand out. And as I looked at it, I found so much power in this image by looking, by seeing, by listening to Julio and finding the lights and the shadows and the fist and this forward, like, look at this fist on the left, you guys. I didn't even notice that until I really looked. And I think with this movement, for me, has made me really look at myself, at the way I've responded to things. I've noticed things, I've acknowledged things, but I haven't reacted. I haven't reacted enough. And I'm feeling like I need, and I am going to react more to what I see. And I'm going to look further, and I'm going to look deeper. And this is what Julio is talking to us about. And why we are all here. We are looking so deep into these pictures. Look at this picture. There's a gazillion stories in this picture, and we are trying to extract it out of darkness and light. We are not copyist from last week, although copyist was important and valuable, and it was important. But today, looking at what's happening, to really freaking look, that's what we're doing today. and I'm overwhelmed. I'm grateful. I'm beyond grateful that Julio's been able to do this every Friday when I can barely sign up. And he's ready to be there for us. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed by these people. I'm overwhelmed by my family's resilience to staying freaking inside, which is sometimes harder than being outside.
Yeah, I know it's all compounding. So I
Well,
think
it's so compounding, and there's so many layers, and I just am I'm like in between my house and my neighbors in this strange spot. Like I just loved the last picture of the places to find ourselves to paint, because painting is thinking.
Mhm.
You guys, painting is thinking, and painting.
I love the results. Yeah, I love how
I haven't even gone further than this. I want
That's
to.
okay. Yeah.
But it's like, do you know what I mean, you guys?
Yeah, it's really
Julio, you're so present, and I so appreciate you, and I so appreciate all of you being here. And even when I'm not, can't be here like 1000%, I am here.
yeah.
And
No,
but we need to do better, and we can. And we need to express ourselves. We need to, all these images, all these things. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's heartfelt. And I don't know, all our stories are important just as much as lifting up other stories. Our stories are important too. And I don't know, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. That's it.
I know it's a
And
lot.
to bring the history into it is so
Yeah.
important. When you brought the art history into it,
Yeah, I thought
about
that was
where we've been and where we are,
right.
that's it. So that's it. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you. Oh, God.
No, I know.
Oh, it's too much.
We probably need another Zoom meeting to sort of like talk about, in addition to talk about.
It's just not like on Instagram, you see these fists and you see these like, these things that everybody shares. And it's just like right now, we are all in this moment really trying to understand and believe. We're not trying to share. We're not trying to prophesize. We're not trying to do anything. We're just trying to understand and listen and observe.
Yeah.
And that's important. That's it.
Well, listen, I mean, I would love for you to work on it a little bit longer if you wanted to, but at the same time, here's what I'm proposing as well. And I really want to move to the rest of the people because I know they're waiting. And as important as it is that we express ourselves, I think it's important as well to give everyone a chance. But what I want to propose to you is that I think it's important that you keep this the way it is right now, and then you start another one, because there's something really intentional about the stage that there is right here that I feel like you need to keep right now. And then, I mean, it's a proposal, and then start something again, because there's something really strongly.
I agree. There's like something reactionary, and then there's something like thoughtful.
Yeah. No, just leave it the way it is.
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe I'll start another one. I got paper. I can do it. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, I think it's because it's something I think it's worth for you to keep this moment and then start something.
Yeah, it's like moments, right? Moments.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this picture so much. This is amazing.
I know.
Who's doing this? Laura?
Laura, yeah.
Laura, this picture is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I saw this picture when I was looking at the LA Times, their past editions.
Me too.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you chose it. And Laura, I have to say, I think you have another one. Let me see how many.
Yeah, there's another.
There's another one,
There's
right?
a more current one.
Let
Yeah.
me see if I have. I need to refresh probably.
I actually felt like Lois, I didn't know what to pick, and I only saw one one area to pick from, so I just picked that one. It's hard because there's so much to pick from, so many feelings, but that one is one of the things that I wanted to capturing our history, because for me, this is a lot more than, this is us capturing, obviously, our feelings in the moment and representing. So yes, this is why I picked this one.
Yeah.
Because it's LA, and yes, the cars, the graffiti, and
yeah, I think
the
it's really
white.
good. It's powerful. And I think it's, these paintings are going to survive us, I guess, or I don't know what the expression is, but they're going to live forever, because I think it's important to understand the value of this work. It's not just a study or what we did last week, an exercise almost, but there's something really powerful about documenting this. So I know that this means a lot. So yeah, it's a great image, and I just love your painting more than the image, Laura. So there's this, the carving sort of like diagonal, the people on top, and then the smoke, the depth. There's something super cool and visually interesting and engaging about the way you are addressing it. So I like that you brought in the neutrals, and so far are basically just putting the foundation for the rest of the work. So I'm looking forward to see how this develops. I think the depth in this painting, conceptual depth, but also visual depth. It's incredible. I love. Yeah, and you have a lot of color there that you can use later, so that's going to be interesting as well, because there's something interesting about the figures on top. It's really powerful. It's really
Yes.
powerful. Laura.
Yes, I can't wait to keep working on it. This feels good. Thank you, Julio.
Yeah. No. Okay, so I'm just gonna basically just move. Darlene, my goodness, this is the image that Darlene chose. And I love your first step, basically. So this looks fantastic. I like the smoke. I love the figure. The figure, Darlene, I noticed that you, as a sketcher, you are developing your practice. You're sharpening up your skills. So to me, this feels such a strong sketch or foundation, basically. So that's the strongest part of the painting so far for me. It's the figure and it's the figure.
Yeah, I took the other figure out because it started posing a problem where it looked like a little child or something. So
yeah, no problem. I think that's a good decision. What I'm going to say, since you were here last week, what I'm going to say is that I really loved how you worked on the background of the painting. The clouds were the strongest part of that painting. They were magnificent. So I would say if you are to work on this, spend a lot of time, if you can, on the smoke, because I feel like that's going to be what's going to make this painting stand out.
Yeah, I have a question. When I'm not at this point, but later on when I'm about to finish, should I use like a glaze to get the tear gas effect, or I'm a little...
You could, I mean, you could. I feel you can get a lot without using a glaze.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you need to glaze anything unless you're using Gallkit, right?
I'm using, this time I used linseed oil.
A linseed oil. Okay, so then it's perfect, because then depending on how or when you're gonna work on it, I feel you're gonna be able to work around it. I don't think you need to glaze anything.
Okay.
Usually when I use glazing is after 2 or 3 sessions, and I just want to give a little glow somewhere. But you can do a lot just with blending.
Okay. Thank you. I'm starting to get a little more confident here.
Good. Listen,
because the difference, like last week with the painting I did, in the first sketch looked ridiculous to me, but I ended up, I think, with my painting last week with a fairly nice painting. So
yes. No, that was just amazing. That's just incredible. So I'm looking forward for you to integrate basically the different areas. So I
Okay,
think,
great.
yeah, I think, yeah. And then here you have, I mean, it's important the ground as well. I mean, it's up to you. I feel like it's a little bit it's very high. So
Okay,
you can easily, if you want, with the smoke, I feel like you can bring the smoke lower and then have more of a presence of the smoke rather than the ground being so high. I mean,
okay.
again, it's personal because I don't think that's important, but yeah,
Okay.
great image, Darlene.
Thank you very
Super
much.
cool. Yeah, so I was mentioning that some of us could only see through the eyes of a journalist or through social media posts, but Sarah Jennings, basically had someone very close to her, very close, a family member. Her son was in the protest, and he took a lot of pictures, and then Sarah Jennings just chose one picture of her son as the subject matter, which I think it's different and super powerful. This is a very strong image, and this is the work. And I feel you've worked really fast because you had a lot going on. And I'm hoping, I think you will. I'm hoping that you dedicate a little bit more time on it, just because there's the image has such complexity. I feel like all the images that we've chosen are very complex and they need a little bit more time. And I see this by seeing the work basically. So this is a little bit different. So in regards of the image, I just feel it's going well. I feel drawing wise, there's something that maybe I would consider about the hands and the arms. Um, maybe there's maybe it's the elbows. Yeah, I feel like the elbows are very low. I feel like forearms and the rest of the arm, it's a little bit too low. So that's why there is this sense of heaviness pulling the arms down. But maybe conceptually that could work. I like that you brought the letters as well. I think that's important. I feel, talking about the Limpy Noodle situation, I feel there's so much going on the silhouette. There's so much detail and variations and quality on the edge, and ins and outs and breaking points, that I feel it's something I would work on the painting. I don't know how much canvas there is, but there's also another issue about having the arm being so cropped right here, because you have something that's vertical and then you have the edge of the painting that's vertical. So this feels like very parallel. I like the fact that the figure is occupying the entirety of the canvas, but at the same time, there's something very interesting about having a little bit of an edge that draws the arm from the outside, and you don't have it here. So there's a little bit here, but I feel like it's way too squeezed. And there's rhythm in this image. There's this super narrow area, but then there's wide space on top and at the bottom. And I feel like this is something that could be addressed or worked. It's just too squeezed, and it's the same distance between the figure and the edge of the canvas. So mostly I would say it's compositional for me, that I would consider to elevate and work, and then continue working on basically the images, the taped image. I think that's very interesting. So the background, consider as well, there's something very good about the fact that there's so much contrast between the background. It's illuminated, it's bright, it has a lot of yellow, and then it just makes the tone of the skin warmer and yeah, much more I would say coming closer to us. Whereas in the painting, I feel it's the background that's darker, and that makes the skin lighter. And we talked about these things before with you, Sarah. It's a very interesting Very interesting. But I'm saying consider it. I feel consider the contrast between dark from the background and light from the skin. I feel like here there's something interesting about the fact that it's lighter outside. It makes the skin darker and warmer. So anyhow, so that will be my approach. And I think you jump in if you want to, but if not, we can talk about it as well through the notes. But I'm gonna just go to Sabrina.
So Julio, if you refresh, Sabrina just uploaded Word development.
Okay, I'm just gonna see. I'm gonna put the image first. I'm gonna put this and then see if I can, just bear with me, and if I can now.
Sorry, I know I I cheated, but I've been working while you've been talking.
No, it's okay. No. Let me see. 1 second. I cannot.
Oh, do you want just the image?
Oh, no. I'm trying to organize it, and I don't know if I can. Oh, I see. Never mind. I know. I'm just gonna edit the album and then see if I can just bring this one. Basically, the album allows us to organize, and I think it's better if it's all together. Okay.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I bit off a little more than I could chew on this one, but like just as far as
Okay.
actual objects. But you know, being in the middle of all this week, it's been pretty intense, and now having the National Guard presence, it's just a very well, I saw so many beautiful images. I wanted to be super hyper local since there's been so much happening here, like on my block.
Right.
So yeah, so this, I thought just this juxtaposition of this military presence against the really touristic icon of Santa Monica felt like sort of what we're going through right now. So that's why I picked this one.
Yeah, no. I think that's it's a great choice, and then it means I feel like, you know, you guys have chosen images that's spoken to you, and in doing so, you have basically transformed this almost to a political self-portrait of sorts, and the images for me sort of like speak about how you see things around you. So what you explain, it just makes perfect sense. And I mean, when are we going to see this again? So seriously, hopefully never, but it's good that you actually are putting it down into painting so yeah. And oops. And then I would say, yeah, so this is the most developed one. So I think it looks fantastic. Actually, I have to say this is pretty awesome. And then you're more than halfway through, because I noticed that some images or some people, some of us have only been able to do so much. And we're basically at the very beginning, but you're in a pretty advanced stage, I would say, because, you know, this feels highly developed. Hold on 1 second, I'm sorry. This was developed, and it shows what it is. I like how the figures are painted. I like that they're not compartmentalized or fragmented. There's something really interesting about that. Love the usage of green and a beautiful way of rendering the letters without being too specific. So to me, that basically the only thing that you need to do is, I mean, you're planning on adding the...
Yeah, I was going to try and add the lettering because it's so iconic, and the Santa Monica, that's actually still just the charcoal that I just had put a little bit of white over.
Oh.
So when I was trying to do the yellow stripes, I noticed the blue was picking up, like even trying to be really light. So I thought maybe I needed to wait a little while.
Right. Yeah.
To
I
do
see.
white lettering over, so you can see the yellow was starting to get green.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, like, should I wait like a day and then try and
Yeah, you can totally do that. Sometimes if I don't have time, what I do is I use a little bit of white mixed with the yellow, and I add it on top. But if you're planning on taking a break and then doing it another day, a single day, it's all it takes. It's enough because the paint is already, it's not going to be super dry, but it's already set enough so you can easily cover anything. So just with a single day. So
Yeah, because that's going to be my big challenge because I'm not good at like drawing and the lettering. So yeah, we'll see.
my advice, yeah, for lettering, if I can say
Uh-huh.
this, because usually that's, and you probably know this more than myself a million times, but with lettering, always start from the center and then expand, because I've made the mistake to start from one end, and I always run out of space. I never have the, so yeah, you know that.
Yeah. Well, and actually part of the reason I left that Santa Monica and didn't put the white over it is when I had done the letter in charcoal, all the letters, I sort of like used those letters as reference about where the other letters went. So I was like, oh, I'll wait for that.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah. So
amazing.
anyway, that's
Really,
I almost didn't do this one because I was like, oh, there's so much that I could get perfectionist about, and I want to try and be looser, but we'll see.
no, I think that's fantastic and it looks incredible. So yeah, and you're more than halfway through in my opinion. Let me see if I can. Sorry, I'm just gonna try to. Yeah, here we go. So I think it's worth now sort of like going a little bit. Oh, I see. So Dina, yeah, I remember this image. I saw when I was looking in the papers, yeah, I saw this image and really also very powerful. And then I love how you approached it. I love the wash. I know that there's so much going on, but let me just tell you this. The way it is right now, it's so beautiful. I mean, obviously, you can, I would say this more strongly if the image in the foreground would be more formed, including the head and all that stuff. There's something really interesting and beautiful about the way the background, the stage of the background, you know, the soft pencil, because I think this is pencil, not charcoal. And,
Right.
yeah, the strokes, the green, there's something really interesting. So it's up to you in regards of like how you approach it. But I think you'll have to find a criteria, because if you make the background the same with the same detail as the figure sitting down, I think you're not gonna make it as strong. I would say there's something really powerful about the single image or the single figure without uniform sitting down and then the grouping on the background. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, I think what struck me when I saw this is kind of what Black people have been saying all along. They're not treated the same. So, you know, there might be, I know this is probably that they weren't intentionally in those proportions, that many National Guard to one person. They were just probably, that was their location to stage right there. They didn't all come just to address his presence, but that does happen in real life, where all of a sudden you've got people that are on guard and they're on the defensive before they really know if they need to be threatened. And it's a cultural thing where generations and generations have been told certain things, and it just gets passed down. And I'm glad that finally, you know, there's more awareness, because every generation gets wiser and more open-minded. But then, you know, you still have maybe grandparents who are telling grandkids, even though their own parents are saying, no, it's not like that. So I'm hoping that with this big, huge movement, that finally the message will get across and things will finally change.
Yeah, well, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. I think absolutely it will, and I feel like we've all lived through different situations, I guess, in regards of like either witnessing the riots or protests. And I'm saying this because there's always a shift, and hopefully this will be a big shift. It has to be, because this feels really tectonic in that sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm not, I'm just, my plan was to keep the National Guard and all the, everything else kind of not in detail, not high, so it would give that contrast, and then really hone in
Yeah.
on the detail of the front figure of the sitting protester. Him not even, he's probably just, you know, he was, the caption said he was just there praying, you know, and I can imagine somebody getting so overwhelmed and distraught. There's nothing else they can do except just pray. Pray that he'll be safe, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, well, no, absolutely. You know, let's visually as well. Let's just analyze this, because, you know, what's important is visually and conceptually, this image is should be the center point, and then the figures. It's more about what they represent than what they really each one looks like.
Right.
So I feel like stylistically, it makes sense that this deserves more of your attention as an artist, because it's a very important image, and a portrait of this. You basically give an identity to this figure when you give detail, but then setting the guards on the background almost as a group without being as defined conceptually makes sense in the sense of what this represents, rather than just trying to do a portrait of each figure. They're
Right.
all sort of like together in a way. They almost feel like they're a wall. So if you treat them visually in that sense, almost like the blurred edges and being more of a huge mass that represents something rather than individual people, probably you'll create more of a conceptual or a stronger conceptual sense of the image.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and Julie, my goodness, wow, this is just amazing. First of all, this is an incredible image.
Yeah,
if
isn't
you-
it amazing? I just think it's so iconic for LA, and I kind of like the single protester.
Yeah.
Can't tell if it's a man or a woman or
Right, it was
black or
insane.
white or but it's hard to paint because it's so much dark. So there's one right near this, and then there's one way at the end, the newer version. But
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can. Let me just do a refresh and see if I can bring it. But boy, let me just say, Julie, your whatever you did extra. Oh, I see. Let me just if you allow me 1 second,
Yeah.
I'm just going to put them in order. Let me just do it really quickly. Let me see if I can.
I moved my easel around a little bit too, because it just photographs differently every angle.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah. So I have this and I have this, right?
Yeah, I'm having trouble with the scarf. I
Oh,
just
let me
keep
see.
going over it and over it. I have to just
Oh,
go
I
up.
see. Well, okay. So this is a very graphic image because of the amount of black, basically, which is good because then it would allow you to anchor the rest of the elements. So that's a very good thing. And in addition to that, the advantage is that you have areas with very high contrast. Not only here, obviously, but I would say even here and then this area right here. So value-wise, the fact that it's in darkness, it's good. So in that sense, I think this is an incredible first step, I would say. I just love the fact that you can recognize that it's LA. I like the abstraction on this texturized area of the painting. And then the building, just the architectural point that gives you a sense of depth and being an open space. I love the color of the sky, by the way. I think conceptually that also works. And I feel like this feels a little bit more developed. And the scarf, I think it looks good. Let me just go back to the first image. Oh, I see. So things that I would consider, okay? So in that sense, there's something about the photograph that I love. And it's the fact that in the sense of like the gravity as a pulling force. Look at this this area right here. It's perfectly vertical. Not only it's vertical, but it almost feels like it has a tilt toward the right. So to me, there is something about the City Hall being behind, having that tilt. It's almost as if she or he is being pushed and almost is going to fall. There is this unbalance that I love with this vertical line, and then everything sort of like expanding on the back. In that sense, I feel like your figure, it's more static. It doesn't have a sense of being on the precipice, on the cliff, almost about to fall down. Because even though you have it, I would probably kind of like shave it. It's more of a round, round image. I would probably shave it in a way. Yeah. I feel like there's something about that tilt that's going to give you even more of a dynamic tension in the painting.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I worked off a print and a printout from my computer, and it gave me all this stuff in the jacket that I don't see, you know, on the photograph that you have up. So that's where I think I'll just go to black, like it shows right here for the whole front.
Well, I think that could be an advantage to see more within the black. It could be an advantage. So I don't know. You decide.
Well, I'll cut. Yeah, I think I'll cut into it though, as you say, because right now the scarf is way too big, just too much.
I think in the scarf, for example, what I would do in the image, there is a sense of the shadow of the scarf and the shadow of the jacket being somewhat similar. So I love when two objects show up different, but then they're areas that are basically the same. So I think it's not the scarf. I would darken the scarf and almost merge it with the darkness of the
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right.
Because something about that will give you a sense of dramatic light coming from this direction. It will just sort of like integrate things under the shadow, and because the scarf is beautiful. I mean, the strokes are beautiful, the colors are beautiful, but I would say darken. If you darken this, it's just going to be.
Okay, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
and so tuck it in more.
Rest. I would say, see if you can get that sense of being on the precipice. This is done, Julie. This is magnificent. This area of the painting right here, the light coming, it's magnificent. Don't touch it.
Okay. The rest of it, though, the tower, the City Hall tower, is just so hard to get that bright.
No, I think that's okay, because it looks like it's a building at night, illuminated, and but I would say on this, I feel on the light, because right now it reads differently, and that's not an issue at all, because there's something beautiful about seeing this almost as a fire of sorts, something burning. It doesn't read like a light, so it just depends on what you want to do, because you could leave it like that, which I think is great. I like the fact that you made it smaller. There's something about this cropped foliage and then the street light. So I feel like this, you could, as a suggestion, you could bring at least the idea of this black being foliage.
Yeah, I think in the next one I did a little bit more of that. Go one more.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really, it reads more like a fire. I'll work on it.
I mean, I like both. I mean, I like the fact that this could be a car on fire, really. I mean, there's something really interesting about that, because then you add so much more to the narrative. I think it's not a matter of like revisiting, it's just deciding what this ends up looking like, because right now it's just super strong, but I just feel there's something interesting. And then you have the moon, right?
Yes, I tried it and then I lost it, and I thought I'll wait till it dries a little bit more.
Yeah,
but maybe it should be soft, so maybe I should put it in.
I think so. I mean, it's something really interesting as well. It just shows that it's nighttime. So
yeah,
this would be the area that I would revisit and see if you, and then if you want to do a point of light, just do a single point. There's something interesting about conceptually, the moon being a dot and the artificial light being another dot.
Right.
So, and you not only you have that, but you have a third one on top of the building.
Right.
So I think compositionally, this is
Kind of interesting.
in regards of like the geometry of it, interesting.
Hmm.
So, maybe it's something that you could incorporate. I don't know. There's something.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I know you're right. You're always right.
Oh,
I love
no.
the help. It helps so much to hear your comments.
It's fantastic, Julie. I mean, the first impression, it's really strong, and you're more than halfway through. Also.
Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty far through, but there's a lot I want to do. The hand I want to work on because it's kind of a powerful piece. Well, see, you
Right.
can't even see it on my printout. You really see it.
So same thing that I said with the scarf, because right now it feels almost cut and paste, too collage.
Yeah,
Bring some
too
shadows from the jacket, expand them, because that's going to be
Okay.
integrated. So not everything needs to be super bright.
Okay, good. All right, thank you.
And yeah, Pharrell, I don't know if you're here or not. Welcome and thank you. And this is just incredible. And
Yes, I'm here, and it's Farrell, and I'm.
oh, okay, Farrell. Well, thank you. I apologize. Yes.
I would just deal it, and I, because it was my first class. Sarah is the one that has been telling me, you've got to come, and so
Oh.
I'm really glad I came today. And because I've been working on a lot of these kind of things myself, and this fits perfectly. And because this is my first class, I wasn't exactly sure what the drift was, so it took me a little bit longer to kind of get, kind of see. But even though the thing I liked about this particular photo was that in a way the fact that it's sort of an expression of what people are, where we are at this moment, in that like people are wearing masks, people are holding their phones, people are carrying signs, people are kneeling, people have their fists up. And plus there's also a sense of like, there's a sense of the, sense of the extent of the crowd. So even though, and the other thing was, because I wasn't exactly sure where the class was going, I didn't, I love some of these emotional ones that people have chosen. They're beautiful. This is not quite as emotional, but I think that, but the other thing I like about this is that there's a woman at the front.
Yes.
In my final, as I work on it, I want to kind of
Good.
have more in the forefront, and without losing the sense of what was, also the fact that people are using phones, which are so important now in terms of capturing what's going on, the truth, the police. So
Right.
I know I have my work cut out for me, and my sketch is very rudimentary, but
No, it's okay. No, I saw it and I think it's just fantastic and great, and it's a good first step. And I love that you use like a very limited palette. I think that's excellent. And I would say, I understand how you feel in the sense of like being early in the stage, but I point out what Hania did in regards of like spending the 2 hours just with charcoal and the wash. So I just feel like in that sense, I love that you started recreating. What's important, it's not just how we paint things, but what they mean to us. So by listening to you and what you just said, I think you already started painting by just choosing the image. And to me, that's something that needs to be acknowledged and recognized, because, the painting, yes, I mean, we can do it better or worse, but this is something that goes beyond. And even just allowing us in this small forum to kind of like share and see what other people have chosen, I find it so enriching. So I really appreciate that you joined, and thank you for also explaining your image. And I'm sorry, but I just feel like there's a lot of emotion in that image. So let me just say that the fact that there's something here with recording of the devices, but she has her eyes closed. So there's something telling about devices recording and things being replayed, but then something about her being or being there with her eyes closed. I feel like emotionally it's empowering. And I also love the fact that, yes, that's the central figure for me. There's there's a bit of a gap between her and then the rest of the crowd. So in that sense, if you were to continue, which I hope you
I
would.
do. Oh, absolutely.
So I would say, and after what you just mentioned, I would say I would just give priority to just spending more time on her, on developing her, especially her eyes and her expression. I think this is really, really important. And then you can leave the rest of the painting. As far as I'm concerned, it could even be left the way you have it right now. It doesn't have to be developed further, because I can see people holding phones here, and I can see that there is a crowd, and I can see people holding signs. So conceptually, to me, that is enough. I would continue or spend time with her, with the fist, with her eyes closed. There's something that sets her apart that I think it's worth to spend time to. What do you think?
I agree. I like that.
And I would stick with the color palette that you have. There's nothing else, no other colors that you should bring in. I would just stick with the ochre, and I would stick with the raw umber. And then if you wanted, you could bring some gray to sort of like delineate the figure from the outside, like right here, if you wanted to. Or maybe on this area. But basically, I just love the palette. So as far as I'm concerned, this could be very monochromatic. So it's just going to give more attention, or it's just going to focus your work on the figure more so if you just keep the same palette. And I love that you brought the signs in. I think that's interesting. It's very also interesting if you wanted to incorporate it later, the fact that there's a lot of black in this image. Yeah. And I feel like the black in the image kind of like connects people. Apart from this figure like that, it's sort of like disconnected because of her arm. But there's something really interesting and cool about the fact that there's a connection between them, and also on the masks. So I feel like something here could be added later to connect individuals in the crowd with that same tone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the black is powerful too. That's why I started playing around with it. But yeah, well, I mean, I love kind of, as you said, I love kind of seeing how it evolves as I work on it and discover things. And I also want to kind of keep a certain amount of diagonal tension, because I think that adds to, you know, the just the excitement of what's going on, and the, you know.
Right. So. I could see diagonals on the arms. I could see diagonals in the background. Absolutely. It just captures the energy of the moment. If you bring something, I mean, her arm is what anchors the entire image to me. So this is something that's, without a doubt, I think it should be developed. But I like how around that, the different expressions, period, they just manifest with other angles, I would say. So some flexed, some straight. I like this arm holding the sign. There's something also, if you allow me, there's something also very beautiful in the way this arm so delicately holds the sign. Look at the gesture of this one, for example. Mm-hmm. It barely touches the sign. Something beautiful about the strength on the tension of the moment, but at the same time, this delicate gesture right here, that I think it's something that here you could develop if you wanted to sort of like develop this arm. Mm-hmm. What I love is the hand over it. So I think the fingers over it, something so delicate and soft. And conceptually, that could be something interesting in the painting, because we're talking about police brutality here and the use of force against someone to oppress them. And yet we see this delicate, elegant, sophisticated sort of like way of holding the sign that is the opposite of that grace. I don't know, something that I would explore as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I feel that way about the guy's knee as well. The one that has the fist on his. Yeah.
Very sort of like classical in the terms of like, canon of beauty, the way things are folded, the figure, something very elegant. So awesome. Farrell, so thank you so much. I saw that you signed up. I'm always extra careful. I hope you had a good experience with us.
Wonderful. I'll be back.
I'm sorry if I said something stupid.
No, I totally, everything you said was inspiring and totally right on. I love
Oh, well, it's a pleasure, and I'm so happy, and I can't wait to meet with you in person one day.
Well, here's I put my video on just so I can say hi.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, so because I think that's the last one, and we could just, I think we have some, yeah, that's the last one. So, right?
That's Charlotte, actually, Julio.
Oh, there's more?
So there's, yeah, Charlotte just added.
Okay, let me just see.
Here, I'll show you me too. Hi.
Oh, there's-
Welcome to Ruthless Painters.
Wow. So Charlotte, I'm just gonna put the last one. Wow. Charlotte, if you're there, this is just impactful and incredible. And I love the fact that you incorporated also other parts of the page. Again, just going outside of capturing a moment and capturing the moment within the moment, I guess, you know. So I love the chromatic palette. I'm speechless in that sense. You know, it's different. There are no figures, but I think symbolically, when I saw the image, Charlotte, if you're there, when I saw the image,
I'm here. Hi.
hi, yeah.
Mhm.
How are you?
I'm perfect. I'm just sad that I started late. I just can't believe how much I got done because I didn't get my computer going, I don't think, until like 20 to 12. So
It's okay.
yeah.
Well, you've done some good work. Yeah.
Thanks.
So I was just saying that when I saw the image, because obviously there's something about this theme that it's so focused on figures and bodies and what's done to bodies and all that stuff. But I love the fact that you brought almost an analogy that could be open-ended in a way. So there is a crash. There's a very obvious. There's a very obvious headline right here that I love. I love the fact that it's painted, but then I just saw the cars. It's a collision, and it's a black car. It's a white car. That's how I read it, Charlotte. I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the things that I tried to do with the rest of the copy was, I think it was this week that you said, Basquiat said, I cross out words so people read them.
Yeah.
So what I did was read the text and just pick out words from what these headlines were. So there's more to it, but I just kind of scribbled the other words, and I thought it's kind of funny because it's weird.
Oh, you mean you actually crossed out words on your painting?
Well, kind of. I just kind of skipped some of them.
Good. Yeah, I think, you know, you can have a criteria. You can have like a range and a spectrum here of what you want. You are the conductor, basically, of the process of someone looking at your painting. So I love the fact that you incorporated that intentional aspect in revealing what you want to reveal, and then creating omissions and creating attention by intervening on the fonts. So to me, it's just wonderful. I love the palette, and I just think this is a better painting than the actual photograph, if you ask me. I know that the photograph is like higher and you put like different.
I wasn't even sure if you can read this as a car crash, but maybe you can. Can you? I tried to just give you like close-ups of the other areas.
Right, yeah, which I love. I love the different vignettes, and I think that's also, it just gives context. There is something also, if I may say, the usage of almost irony. I mean, I hope that I'm being okay mentioning this, but there's something almost, I wouldn't say humorous, but you're bringing almost sarcasm in a way. There's a symbolism and there's the analogy, but it goes beyond. And I think that adds a layer that makes it interesting to me. You know, I don't know, different in the sense that it's different.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think I was just kind of using that idea of doing that to just make it as tragic as possible.
Right. Yeah. Well, in the sense, let's kind of like talk about the visual, basically
Okay.
visual representation, because I think it works compositionally. I think you probably, if you plan to, I think I would work on making it more look like a crash. Yeah, because I think.
I'm afraid, yeah, if you didn't have the photograph, I don't know if it would read very well. And I kind of tried to re-sketch it and move the tires a little bit.
Yeah, let me just, what I'll do really quickly, I think, I'm gonna pause the screen for 1 second, and then I'm gonna put them,
Oh, you're gonna put that next to it.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna put them all together. You're not gonna see because it's a little bit dizzying. I just pause the screen, and then I'll just put basically things together and see if we can. Mostly I'm just gonna basically do the two, the
Yeah.
image and the final one. Okay, here we go.
Mhm.
So here's the image, and this is your final. No, I think it's pretty good. Well, let me see. Here's the issue, if you wanted to. It's the fact that there's no road here. So I mean, it shouldn't be an issue because it's fine. Never mind. Never mind.
You know what's crazy? Can you hang on for 2 seconds? I'm sorry, you're being so patient. Can I send you the last one? Because it's actually not, that's kind of a while ago. I've changed a lot. I think it needed some
Okay.
change because I tried to put the shadows under the cars.
Yeah.
And that might be slightly better. That would be, then we can kind of talk about. Maybe we just skip that. Okay, one. I can do it. I can do it. By the way, great class. You had me cracking up. OMG. So much fun. So hilarious. Okay. It's not there.
Oh, let me just refresh.
Yeah, it should be there. The last one should be there.
Yeah, I see.
So I tried, because I ran out of space for the road, I tried to work on the tires.
Yes.
And the shadows.
Yes. That totally works for me.
Okay.
It totally works. Yeah. That's so much. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, to me, that's, I would probably work a little bit on the window right here. Just like give it a little bit more definition. Okay. But basically, and it's beautiful the way you rendered it. This is stunning, because it has enough, but it's not fully formed. So I love the strokes. It's just really gorgeous. So in that sense, I'll possibly kind of like give a little bit of detail to those windows right there, just so it brings up the same level of definition, but it's gorgeous.
Great, thank you. It was a fun one. It was fast.
No, it's different. It's different, but I think it's just spectacular. Yeah. So.
Thank you.
Anyhow, I'm just gonna stop the screen here. Yeah, and then basically, yeah. So thank you so much. This was just beyond. It was just beyond. Let me just say that. Let me just say this. Okay, and then stop this for 1 second. So yeah, it's a better view. Yeah. So and. Oh, let me see. Yeah. So just wanted to say thanks to everyone. And this was another fantastic session. I learned so much. I felt touched by your photos, explanations, and I wish we had time to talk more about it because I feel like it's important and it goes so fast. And I'm sorry if we don't have enough time to actually go over what we really want to say. But I appreciate everyone being so patient and everyone participating. And I honestly feel like this work is one of the most important that we've done in the entire series. So I invite you to continue working on it if you can, because I feel like this is something that we're gonna treasure and value the longer we keep it with us. So in that sense, Jen, you want to say your last words?
Oh no, please don't say that. I'm afraid.
I'm sorry.
No. Hi, I just want to, the work is amazing, you guys, as always. Look for notes in your email. I will be sending emails to everyone of the notes from today and different articles to look at and pieces of work and whatnot. So that's exciting too. So have a great weekend, everyone, and we'll see you on Tuesday.
Yeah. We'll see you on Tuesday if you can. And this was incredible. And there, so have a good weekend. Continue learning and make notes or write down notes about how this made you feel and what you're going through painting. Because I feel like it's something that it's important and that I'm gonna do. So hopefully this was helpful, and see you on Tuesday for a conversation about things that came up and techniques and articles and other stuff. All right. So bye everyone. Love, and I'll see you soon.